In this video I want to show you how I did my coloring of the illustrations I made for the book I wrote, The Portal Guardians. In that book in particular, I really wanted to have this natural, organic feel in the drawings. So I went all in to see if I could achieve what watercolors look like in real life. And the absolute key to that is to get the right brushes in here in Procreate. And Procreate comes with a set of awesome brushes from the get-go. But you can see here it does have, if I go down here, you have water in the bottom here. Down here you have water, so I could click that, and there you have some really cool water brushes as well. You have wash, you have wet glaze, and all of these are really great. And then you have some splatters that come in very useful at later points. So this is really great. So you can get started with that and come a really, really long way. But I really felt it didn't really meet my needs. So what I did is I actually surfed the internet and tried out all sorts of brushes. Actually, I ended up choosing these brushes here, T. Swetka. And the reason I chose those is she's made some stamps and some watercolor brushes here. And these are just simply great. They are very, very, very great when it comes to making it look real and authentic. Freya here, she also made a lot of brushes here. So I didn't buy the professional license of these because I wanted to try it out first. And there are a lot of these, and some of them might actually do the work for you. See the splatters here, etc. There are really some good ones here, but I didn't really achieve exactly the look and feel I was going for with these. So I went back to these up here, and these are the ones I use. And it turns out I use 3 in total. I don't use all of them. I only use 3. But that's also because I'm a creature of habit. I love getting into some rhythm in the way I paint, and then I just get used to doing that this way, right? So I might be missing out on a lot of stuff if I try it out further, of these brushes. There's a lot here, right? But if we go into my recent up here, you can see which ones that it is I use. And the hot airbrush I use when I need to erase stuff. The HB pencil I use when I need to. These two are native brushes, right? That comes with Procreate, and the HB pencil I use when I do my sketching, and the hot brush when I do my eraser. Because the eraser, you can also choose any brush for that you would want, and that comes really handy later on. But you see I have the wet ink, the ink wet on wet line 545. That one I use a lot. And then I use the watercolor wash 3 wet edges and the watercolor wet on wet edges 2. So I use these 3 from Titswatska library. And if I quickly go in here, you can see that her name is Svetlana. And what you also get here is a lot of paper structures. And it just amazes me how a paper structure on top of what you've made, sell it as if it was a real thing. So this is a really hot recommendation from my part. You don't need to look any further. Go in here, try it out. It will amaze you, I'm sure. So I can just quickly show you how it works for me. So the first thing I do is to apply the paper structure, because that really helps getting that feel of it looking just right from the get-go, and that's a nice feeling having it from the beginning. And the way I do that is actually by inserting a file, because I have that stored here, as you see. So if I scroll down, the one I use is this one here, Paper Watercolor 2. And all of the rest might be very cool, but that's the one that I fell in love with for this project. I'll go down here and I'll shift it around. I'll rotate it, first of all. And then I can scale up, fit to canvas. If I click that one, it fits up to canvas. So by deselecting here, now I have that as a separate layer. What I'll then do is to make sure that it applies in a way that I can still see the outline of my colors underneath. So what I do is I actually press the N here, so I don't want it to be a normal way it blends with the other layers. I want it to actually be the linear burn. So by choosing that, you see that now every color below will shine through. Moving this to the left and press lock. So now you see it's locked. So now when I zoom in here, you can see the paper structure here. And that's actually applied on top of everything else, which is counterintuitive, but that is just how it works. So now it feels as if I'm drawing on top of some paper. What I'll also do is I'll lock these layers with my inking, because I don't want to accidentally paint on those. So I'll do that by following the same procedure here. So now I'm actually good to go. Now I can start coloring. What I've done previously is that I've drawn this character before. I've painted him before, and I know what colors he have. And I also know what colors the hands should be, because I've actually painted those before as well. So what I did was when I go up to my color palette here to the right, what you'll see is down here I have palettes. And when you have to draw the same characters again and again, or the same motif, then it's a good idea to actually save your color palettes for each character and each thing you're coloring, so that you have it ready at hand. Before I discovered this trick, what I did was I copied in and I placed a photo of what I've been painting earlier, and then pick the color from that photo directly on the canvas, but now I've done this. So these are all the characters here in the book. So here I have the character I'm painting here. So that is the mole I have here. The first ones here, the first colors you see here are his fur. And these colors out here is his snout and his, feet and hands here. So these colors are for his feet below here. And this color here is for his nails, right? I wanted that to be some sort of yellow, because he might have been digging around in the dirt for a long time, so they don't shine all white anymore. And the hands belong to our main character, which is Buster. And Buster I have down here. So what I have here is Buster's skin color here. So I could start out by establishing Buster's skin color here. Also because that might actually introduce where the light comes from and how that will affect also the main character here. So let's try that. So since I'm mimicking watercolor, I I go from light to dark, and because that is how watercolor works in real life. You start with the light colors, and then you apply darker and darker shades on top of that. This is something I need to get used to, because I'm used to just applying light colors, and when I work with oil and acrylics, that's how I work. I haven't worked that much with watercolor in real life either, so this is really like new to me to do it that way, but the results turn out really good if you do it like that. So now I'm ready. I've chosen my color here. I think I'll just start by, because it's such a big area, I'll choose this wet on wet 2, because that is actually a really good one for that. Let's start painting, and I'll create a new layer, and I'll move that down below here. And then I'll start big, and I'll start full opacity, and then I'll start painting here. So, and here in the edges, I really don't care if it smudges a little out. See, even though I have it at full opacity, this brush still has some opacity to it, which watercolor also has, and that goes a long way to get the right feeling here of watercolor. See, I paint everything in, and I really don't care if I go over the lines here or into the mole character here. At this point, it's okay if it's a little dirty, because it's the imperfections I'm actually seeking as well. I'm seeking imperfection in order to make it look real and organic, because if things are too perfect, it becomes very digital, and it loses its nerve, I think. So that was like the main color applied. So what I do is I then go in and I choose the next color, as you see here. Then I choose this one. This is the darker color, so let me choose this, and then I might use this on wet edges, this one here, because what that one does, which I really like, is that if I zoom in, you might be able to see it, that it bleeds out, and then it becomes a little darker in the edges, which is something you see in watercolor all the time. Try to establish a light source that comes somewhere from up here, meaning that parts of this will be in shadow. And then it's just about me figuring out exactly what those parts are. And I'll choose a darker color now. So this is here. So now let me just, because this would be in shadow also as well, and then I'll go back to the darker color. But now I have them applied on the canvas, so I can just pick it from here again. Yeah, then let's just go here. I think I'll turn it down a little smaller so I can get some details in here. Yeah, and I might actually go a little darker here. So, and the reason is just to give it some more contrast here. To be sure that, because what I really want is for for Mole to stand out, right? I really want him to be the one, the thing you focus on. I then start erasing around here afterwards, just removing this so that we get the sharp outline. That's the thing that should be here. This part of the process, you know, what you could have done is to select only what you wanted to paint, and then it wouldn't paint outside those borders. And I'll show you what kind of approach that is in just a moment when I'm done with this. Okay, so now I removed all the color I added outside the line here, and now when I come down to the bottom here, you can see that this color comes too far to the edge, and this is where it becomes really handy, because you know what I want is to have this color show up out on the paper, but down here it actually exceeds the artboard. So right now I've been using the hard airbrush to do my erasing here, as you see, but when it comes down here, the hard airbrush would look silly, and that would be a really digital giveaway. I don't want that. So this is where it becomes really handy that I can choose other brushes. So I go into Recent, and then I can choose my watercolor wet on wet 2. If I choose that, then as my eraser, now when I start erasing, you see I can actually mimic the feel of the paper structure here and everything, so it doesn't line up in this sharp edge. So what I did was I did the main color, and then I painted above that with all the colors I wanted, and then when I felt I was done with this color, with all its shadows and everything, I started erasing around all the edges. But another thing you could do actually is to, when you have applied the main color, hold down 2 fingers in this layer, and it will automatically select only what is colored inside that layer. So now you can see that if I were to draw here, let's see, let's try, I paint here, I cannot paint out here. This is weird. Why can't I? And that's because I've selected only that part of it, right? So that's another way of doing this. If you want to, let's say now I wanted to apply even more color to this, then that would be my approach. But it's not. So let's tap with 2 fingers to undo until all my scribblings there are gone. Then click up here to deselect, right? So now I'll lock this and I'll create a new layer. Now what I can do is I can move this layer down below the other one. So now that when I start painting here, it won't go above the other painting, it would go below it. So I'll take my wet edges here, keep that one, go back to palettes, and then now I'm not on the Buster character anymore, because now it's the Mole, this guy. Let's pick this color, and then let's start painting away. So So now I have everything painted out. I've added color and I added some shadow to all the colors. And what I wanted here is to show you guys how I structure my layers and the reasoning behind it. So from a perspective point here, the hands are behind the mole. But I structure my layers so I actually have some of the layers that are below everything on top, because then that can hide some of the things I've painted outside the stroke. So a good example here is the fur of the mole here. If I remove this top layer, you can see that it actually hides all of this coloring I did, outside the actual strokes. So this means that I can actually use a very large brush size, and I really don't care about where the color lands, because I have this covering it anyway, right? And the same goes for the fur of the mole. You see, it covers the flesh tones here, and again, flesh tones covers the nails, etc. So that's actually how I apply my layers. So now I've reached the final stages of this illustration and the coloring of it. And what I do want to do here is to add some lighting to this. So I've established that the light source comes from up here down. So you can see I have the light entering here, and I have some shadow where the hand covers it, and besides the hand you can see shadow on my character here. What I want to apply here is some additional lighting, because what really gives this an extra edge is to add some rim lighting to it as well. And there are some artists out there that are really, really good at this. I would say that I'm just beginning to explore this field. But what is rim lighting? Let's just touch upon that quickly. So I just made a quick search here on Google, rim light. And what you get is all these images of the lighting setup where it's a rim light, right? And what it is that light that shines very sharp from behind gives this outline kind of light, as you see here, for example, and here. So there's some really good examples of rim light, that sharp light from behind that just gives an outline of light. And for my drawings, I feel that is really what I'm aiming for. I really want that rim light being there also in the shadow, because it really defines the form. So how I'll do that is just to apply a layer on top of everything here, and I'll choose a color of that light, and this is happening outside. So outside the light tends to be bluish, and then I'll choose a brush that will really work being small and sharp. And since I'm still trying to mimic watercolor, I want to choose this one, ink wet on wet line. And now I can go in and add some lights to this. So I know some light will come up here from the top like that, and this one up here will get some lights, and I'll get it here. So by adding it as a separate layer, I can really go in and refine this, right? So where will the light hit? If I think of that all the time, where will the light hit? This is a cartoon kind of feel. I don't want this to be realistic, or I have no ambition of that. But I do have an ambition of making it look cool, so I'll add in rim light here, there, and everywhere. Because it just looks cool. And out here as well, this is where it really kicks off. If you do it here in the shadows, it really defines the form. So I really want to do that just to make sure that we see this guy. Really see him pop out, because he is the one you want to look at this drawing here. So now I have established, I have a light from above that hits him, top left, and then I have some rim lighting coming from behind as well, hitting him there. And also hitting the hand, right? So, like so. Now I can go in if I've done too much or I've drawn outside the lines. I can just go in and I can erase. Here, let's just erase that one. That was a little too much. This one doesn't belong there, and yeah, maybe I should add some more here. Make this even sharper. Yeah, so yeah, I actually think this might actually be what's left. I think you can overdo this, but I haven't really reached the point yet where I thought it was too much. Some of my paintings, I have like two light sources. I have like a blue and then a more yellowish coming from each side, and they really complement each other very well. But at this point, I know I'm only outside. I don't have like a yellowish light source, which would be what would come from lighting from a candle or from an electric light source. That would be yellow. But since I'm outside, it needs to be a bluish light source. Yeah, that just gave it some edge, I think. So now I have the whiskers here. I painted those in with black when I inked it. But what I also like to do there is to add some pure white to that. Let's go up here and add some pure white below that, because I don't want those to stand out, because I really think these whiskers also define this character a lot. Like in my mouse, a mouse also has these whiskers, which are kind of cute. So I'll draw it out here as well, because I actually want to have some sort of background color to this as well. And I want to establish that that will be below everything. So I'll add yet another layer. I'll move that below. And here I'll do the wet on wet again. And then I'll actually choose like an autumnish, greenish thing here. And then I'll try to paint that in here. Because that is the color it will be here. So, and then I can add some detail in that using some brighter things. Here you go. Now let's scribble around in that. So by not pushing too hard, I can use the same color to get these out here, because it's what I really want is this should stand as if it's on a grassy background, right? Yeah, but that's actually quite cool, I think. And then what I also want to do to this is I want to add some of these awesome brush strokes. Here you have this stamp watercolor. If I choose that and I go a little darker here, I might want to apply that to a separate layer, because then I can cut it out and move it around afterwards. So you can do that. And what that is, it applies this artifact that you get sometimes. If I do it out here in the white canvas, you can see this is what you really get with real watercolors. You get where the color flows together and makes a really dark outline. And that's actually something that you would experience a lot in a painting like this if you were to paint it in real life. So I actually think this, then I can select it and move it around. This small effect goes a long way to convince at least some people that haven't seen this video that this might actually be real watercolor, right? But you know it's not. You won't be cheated into thinking it is. And then maybe some water flicker things here. There you go. That was quite cool, I think. That splatter did a lot of cool things. It also went into his fur, and I really don't like that it did that. And that's because I had this. The fur is a slight transparent. So I feel I might need to erase some of this. Because, yeah, don't want this to be on his fur. And let's do this erase in here as well, just to make sure it doesn't show up inside his fur. So we can apply that again. There you go. Yeah. So now I can remove this arrow I did up here. I did that initially to show you where the light source was coming from. We don't need that in the final drawing. So now I have my paper structure up here. So you can definitely, if I zoom in, you can see the difference if I take that on and off. So now it's on, now it's off, now it's on, now it's off. So that really does the trick, right? That paper structure. So be sure to apply a paper structure if you want to make this believable as a watercolor painting. Yeah, so I know I want this to be added inside a book, and the book will have white pages that might be blank, and that I don't exactly know where this will be printed and how the paper structure will be. But what I do know is that if this fake paper structure lines up with the real paper structure, it will give it away. So I need to get rid of that in the whites out here. Otherwise, you'll be able to see you'll be able to see this border here line up against the white. So you can actually mimic it here. So if I am to unlock this layer here, and then there I have it. If I was to move this to the side just a little, there you can see it. So this is actually quite gray and dark compared to the white you have out here. I'll start by choosing my eraser tool here. Be sure to be on hot brush and make it as big as possible. And then I'll start doing an outline all around the canvas here to make sure I have nothing there. Then corners here, get all the way out here. So now I have that gone, and now I can start erasing. And what I do is I really want to get as close with this airbrush as I can and erase this color, because at this point it will seem as a dark color against the white of the paper when it's final for print. So I'll go around everything. And here by the hand I actually have a sharp line, so I can actually move this super close to this line here. But for all the rest, now you can see it's as if I've eaten some of it here. Smash, smash, like playing Pac-Man. But how I want this to blend up to this is that now it becomes really handy to use the watercolor wet on wet 2 here. So if I use that as my eraser, now when I go close to this, I can go really close without having it being a sharp edge, because that I don't want. I still want the paper to blend. It should blend into the white of the real paper. So I'll move all the way around like this, zoomed in like this. Some of this is trial and error as well, I think, because let's see there I have a problem. I actually got too close with my background layer here, so now I want to erase some of that as well too. Even though it looks cool and organic, I still don't want it to get too close to the borders here. I don't want any sharp cuts in this. So that is the final refinement. There you have it. And then you can export it for whatever use you want. You can export it as a TIFF if you want it to be in SMYK, and otherwise just export it in RGB as PNG or whatever if you want to use it digitally. But this is how I do it inside Procreate. Please have fun with it. It's awesome. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for your time.